Yeah, that's the beauty of something open source, and then what you're doing. Let me just stop you right there, Roneil, because you spent 2 years in a big venture capital firm. And so I guess part of me would say, Web 2.0 was born out of venture cap. And if you're part of the venture cap company, I'm assuming Soundcloud have venture cap, but even if they didn't, how do you go to Sand Hill Road and go into the people and say, guess what? we're gonna open source it. We're gonna connect everybody and we're just gonna let the chips fall where they may. And guess what? We'll probably get exponential growth, triple digit growth, like we've seen in, say, crypto assets. But a typical VC, from doing what they've been doing for 50 years, that in their DNA is probably to say, no, no, we don't want to do that because that's not the typical business model. I don't know. Clearly, you're not doing that. But can you speak on that maybe that paradigm shift of venture cap that by nature doesn't want to let go of that control because that's typically where all the profits were?
Totally. So yeah, I spent 2.5 years at Kleiner Perkins prior to founding Audius, and the first round of financing that helped get Audius going in early 2018 was actually mostly traditional venture firms. In early 2018, Pantera and Blockchain Capital were the only two crypto native funds like that existed, just full stop, right? There was no other kind of like crypto native venture community, right? So we raised from those traditional folks under exactly kind of the pitch and the premise that you just laid out. And I think there are a few things there. One, like venture folks love nothing more than to hear like audacious, ridiculous things that kind of challenge them. So, like the a question we always got was, how does Audius make money? Like Audius, the company. And we were like, well, it doesn't. We never make money. We're not ever going to make money. But if this network is valuable, this underlying token that powers it, you can form your own conclusion around whether or not that might be valuable. And that's actually, what you're engaging with as an investor. Like our company doesn't really we don't really have any viable business model long term, right? And that's a very interesting kind of distinction for them. I think they it confused them, but folks in venture, when they get confused, actually typically get excited, right? Because it means that there is potentially a paradigm shift happening. And even if there's like a 10% chance that that actually happens and a 90% chance that this is like all bullshit and I'm like, I'm an idiot, on a risk adjusted basis, that's still a good bet to make, right? And so you'd be surprised actually how quickly folks were like excited about it. But you're totally right that I think what the thing that got folks in venture excited about crypto originally and this kind of movement towards decentralization was how disruptive it could be towards centralized business models, right? And ultimately their fear of missing that transition, right? That's I think another big driver of a lot of behavior in venture. But the folks that have been along for the ride with us have been believers from the early days, and one of them even had a specific thesis around kind of what happened with SoundCloud, and was actively looking to engage with and back something that could be resilient to some of those things that some of where SoundCloud misstepped. So yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised actually how receptive folks were. That financing was done in like 8 days, I think 8 or 9 days. It was like a very,
Wow. And that's back in 18 when it wasn't exactly the bull market either.
It was not, although it was early 18. Okay. So it was still the tail end of the 17 market. But I think it was clear to everyone that things were kind of collapsing at that stage. But folks were still excited to back the next generation.
Right. All right, now let's get into the token because that's where it becomes interesting. And again, I like your SoundCloud comparison because I think we all went on there and used it back in the day, and it was great. You had your music, etc. But obviously then it seemed to not evolve. How is Audius different? Because so far you've described it, it sounds very similar, but now I think comes in the token, which really changes everything, doesn't it?
It does. It does. So the audio token, like you mentioned, has three kind of core functions within the network. It secures the network. So with respect to all of the community members that host content, that host metadata, that do work that's necessary to keep this network going, they stake that token and they earn rewards back denominated in that token in exchange for the work that they're doing. That the network is kind of paying them in a decentralized fashion for that. It also grants access to features. So as an artist, there are a number of features that consume significant amounts of resources from the network. So as an artist, you can similarly stake the token and participate in those staking rewards, but there's a level of stake required for certain features to be unlocked. And then it governs the network. And that third piece, I think, is really where the resilience to, management making poor decisions and or management being misaligned with the community around the platform. In the case of the Audius network, the community is management, right? And our company, the work that we do is done at the pleasure of the community, and ultimately they can fire us or say we're not doing a good job or do whatever they want, right? It's like once this launched, it's really in their hands more so than ours, and the token backed and based governance is kind of how that is actually affected in the network. So any code change, any functionality change on the network has to actually go through a token holder vote to kind of accept or reject that change. So that's really where this kind of unifier of incentives across the network we felt created this very powerful effect where everyone was aligned towards making the Audius network as functional, as useful, and as interesting as possible for its community.